Congresswoman, since firearms are so ubiquitous in this country, do laws like Stand Your Ground make sense if they actually encourage people to use their guns whenever they feel, quotes, threatened?
Absolutely not, Martin. I find it most interesting that the same people that consistently talk about people being accountable, taking responsibility for themselves, have now decided that there should be no standard of responsibility, no standard of accountability if you are in a place where they think that you can legally be and just decide that someone is threatening you in some way. I mean, Martin, think about it. We teach police officers, those who are trained with weapons, to only use that force which is necessary. But we are now absolving everyday citizens of the same standard of responsibility and accountability. We have decided that any level of violence is okay, that everyone should be able to have a gun and defend themselves. What happened to humanity, number one? Number two, what has happened to the people who have all these years talked about responsibility and now there is none? Something is very wrong in America, Martin, when we allow people to carry guns, when we know, in fact, that the more guns that are on the streets, the higher the incidence of homicide is, but yet they would deny the data, they would ignore the data and say, you know what, everything's going to be okay as long as everyone has a gun. We have to stop buying into that foolishness.
Absolutely, we have to. Ms. McButh, the man charged in your son's death has written some letters that made it out to the public. In one of them, he expresses his hope that the trial will move to counties that are, quote, predominantly white and Republican and supporters of gun rights. I have to ask you, how much hope do you hold that justice will be served in the case of your son's death?
Well, we have to believe that justice will be served. The justice system that we have here in this country is the best that we have. The two cases are very different. They're very similar but very different. The letters that Michael Dunn wrote are very painful. They're very hard to read. It's very hard to understand that how he could have such disheartening feelings and opinions and ideas about people that are not like him. If we are posed with the trial being moved, if any of those things should happen, then we will have to deal with that at that time. Whatever comes out of the letters, whatever happens because of Michael Dunn's letters, that will be of his own doing. We are not insinuating anything that's going to be racially biased. We have decided that we are not going to buy into any of that we're not going to incite the country to racism, that what Jordan's father and I are doing is for all children. It's for everyone. And we are not going to let his opinions and ideas about race, about our son, or about what he's done determine the course of our future.
Thank you so much for your grace, your courage, and your dignity.
Thank you.
Congresswoman, the hearing was originally scheduled, as you know, to take place on September the 17th, one day after the Navy Yard shooting. But I have to ask you this question. Were you surprised that only about 4 senators actually decided to attend today?
I'm not surprised at all. I listened to a woman who lost her son, and I tell you, Martin, it would be laughable, if not so serious, that someone who talks about wanting to get a fair trial would believe the only way to do that is to have an all-white jury, where in fact at today's hearing they talked about the fact that Stand Your Ground laws benefit African Americans. It is the height of hypocrisy for people to use race in an environment that is already charged because of the death of an innocent young man, to use race to say, you know what, something's wrong with them. I don't want to see another trial where the person who was killed is on trial and not the person who did the killing.
Absolutely.